Formula One Bet. My name is Noah Mosley, and thank you so much for watching. And in this video, we will be going through the racing odds for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix this weekend. The race is on a Saturday night, and it's on a high-speed, narrow street track, so should allow for some pretty interesting racing. Let's go ahead, let's get into it. Alright guys, before we get into the odds, we got to talk about what has happened between last week and this week in the world of Formula One. What is happening over at Red Bull? Christian Horner and Jos Verstappen seem to be going at it neck and neck, and it's causing a lot of turmoil inside the team to the point where Helmut Marko and Max Verstappen are thinking about jumping ship. At least Max is looking at jumping over to Mercedes, which is very significant, and the likes of Adrian Newey could be leaving the team as well, which is, you know, part of the whole reason where the Red Bull is where they're at. Next, looking over at Alpine, I just don't believe that they will be able to pull themselves out of the back of the grid, just because this past week they went ahead and they made some internal firings. They went ahead and they canned their head of aero. Just goes to show that they don't support the direction the car was going. I just don't think that they will be successful this year or next year. I think their best bet is to only re-sign one of the drivers for next year. Look towards some young and upcoming talent. I know their reserve driver Jack has a lot of potential there. Now looking at my qualifying odds predictions for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, who I have for my shot in the dark this weekend is Lewis Hamilton. Now Lewis is sitting at plus 2,500 odds over on ESPN Bet, and it's kind of crazy to think that he is even the shot in the dark to begin with, as he is a 7-time World Drivers Champion. With that being said, his car has been inconsistent in the recent years, but looking at the practice session 2 at Bahrain, he did top the timing sheets, and they said that they were having some trouble with their car as the weekend progressed. So it's something that could potentially happen. Lewis, I feel like, performs very well here at Saudi Arabia as well. So I feel like this is a track that suits him. So go ahead and lock him in for your shot in the dark. Next, my potential lock to take pole position is Checo Perez. Now Checo is sitting at plus 900 odds over on FanDuel, and if you saw my recap video from Bahrain, you would see that I was pretty impressed with his performance. With that being said, I feel like it could easily roll over to Saudi Arabia, as Checo was the past race winner here in Saudi, and like I said previously, he is defending, you know, his seat, you know, for next year, and there's no guarantee that he will be racing for Red Bull. So he feels this pressure against him every single weekend, and he will continue to feel that pressure. So I feel like he will have that desire to stick it on pole to just kind of back them off and secure his spot. Alrighty, my best bet to go ahead and take pole position is Max Verstappen. Now Max is sitting at positive odds. I cannot believe I'm saying this. Positive odds. He is sitting at plus 100 over at Bet365, and I'm telling you, if you want your best chance to make money this year, I would go and put your money on Max to take pole position. I cannot believe that they have this at positive odds. With that being said, go ahead, take advantage of it. He's your best bet. When you look at the performance of the Red Bull last year and the performance of the Red Bull in Bahrain, I just feel the most confident with this bet, as Max has shown his dominance. This is a track that has a lot of high-speed corners and a lot of low degradation, so I feel like it will suit the Red Bull pretty well. Now moving on to my race predictions for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, who I have for my shot in the dark is Lando Norris. Lando is sitting at plus 3,000 odds over on Hard Rock Bet and ESPN Bet. I think that this is potentially a long shot, but with that being said, the McLaren car itself performs very well in the high-speed corners, and this track seems to be suiting their car pretty well. And with looking at the performance of the car last week, they didn't have as much degradation as they had last year, so which can really help in the strategy of the race, you know, not having to pit nearly as soon. With that being said, I would not necessarily bank on this happening, as Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull, you know, show to have more performance, but Also, then again, safety cars can throw off a lot of strategies here, and all it takes is one safety car in the right position to go ahead and give them a cheap pit stop and progress their race to a potential victory. So go ahead, lock it in for Lando Norris as your shot in this. Up next, my potential lock to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is George Russell. Now, George is sitting at plus 5,000 odds on Hard Rock Bet and Bet365. I think this is a pretty good bet just because George qualified pretty strongly last week in Bahrain, and he showed pretty strong race pace as well. With that being said, he had a few mental mistakes, speaking of which he had one on lap 47 in the Bahrain Grand Prix, which costed him a position to Charles Leclerc, which it's those mistakes is what cannot happen for George. With that being said, throughout the whole entire race weekend, I thought that he showed he could be their #1 driver in the future, and they could potentially bring in somebody younger to facilitate their second seat, as George can command that leadership role. But it's something that we definitely got to keep an eye on in the future. So go ahead, lock it in with George Russell. Now, my absolute best bet to win the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix this weekend is Carlos Sainz. Now, Carlos is sitting at odds 2,900 over on FanDuel, and I think that this is a great bet. I can hear people say now, Max is going to win by 20 seconds. When you look at who has beaten Max Verstappen within the past year, outside of a Red Bull, it's Carlos Sainz is the only driver that can say that. The Ferrari has showed pretty strong pace before in Jeddah, has low tire degradation, which helps them out significantly, and their car is in a lot better shape this year than in recent years. Also, Carlos showed last week that he was probably their #1 driver outright, just due to the fact that he overtook Charles several times, and those times were late, deep into the corners coming out of turns. I was highly impressed with Carlos's performance, and I feel like it will carry on as he continues to have that back against the wall mentality. And I think he could potentially throw it up and win the race, as he's shown that he has that race. All right, guys, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and throw up the qualifying odds chart for you now and the racing odds chart for you now, just so that way you guys can review it and put the money on your driver who you think is either going to take pole position or win the race, so that way you're utilizing the best sports book to win you the most money. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please like, comment, and subscribe down below. Looking ahead, we'll have the Saudi Arabian race recap video coming around Monday or Tuesday, so keep an eye out for that. Let's go McLaren, and happy racing!